and welcome back to A Little Literary Love. I'm glad you all are with me today. Today's video is going to be my November mid-month wrap-up. So we're going to be talking about all the books that I read in the first half of November. I read 9 books, and I had a lot of duds, honestly. I haven't really liked too many of the books that I have read in November. So I'm hoping the last half of November will be better. But the last half of November is also like Thanksgiving. I have lots of family stuff going on, so I'm not 100% sure how many books I'm going to be able to get to, but it is what it is. So we're going to get right into it. So to start off November, I was in a bit of an Omegaverse mood again. I've just been really enjoying Omegaverse stories this year, but I just keep like not finding like the perfect ones. Like I keep searching for them. But anyway, so I read Omega's Obsession. This is the second book of the Heat Haven series by Sarah Blue. I read the first book, which is Heat Haven, earlier this year sometime. So this is the second one. All of these books revolve around this place called the Heat Haven where Omegas can go, and it's a safe space. They can choose like a pack or an individual or whoever to help them through like their heats. So this is about our heroine of the story. She is an Omega, and she has had a crush on her brother's best friend for a long time since she presented as an Omega. He is an alpha, and she really wants to be with him. She really wants him to help her through her heat, and she does a little bit of snooping in his room and finds out that he has put in an application at Heat Haven with a trial pack of his own. And she finds out that he's like bisexual, and this other pack, like it's him and another alpha and a beta. So she goes to this Heat Haven and like signs up for it and puts in that she wants their pack to as like a request to be her pack to help her through her heat. So I give this 3.5 stars. I didn't enjoy this as much as the first book of the series. There were some things that I just like later on in the plot that I felt were just overly dramatic, and I thought were kind of unnecessary. Like there's some issues that she has with her father, and there's like a kidnapping. It got a little bit too much, and I didn't think it needed to be there. Otherwise, this was a really good romance. There are some steamy male scenes to it. Steam on this can be high, so yeah. Then I read Allure Part 1 by T.S. Snow and Colette Rhodes. This is another Omegaverse story. This is a 2-part story. And this is about our heroine. She works at an Omega strip club, and she's also kind of using it as a way to meet alphas and potentially find her pack. And there are this pack that joins, and they like never get picked by any Omega because they're more like blue collar workers, whereas most like packs are like much more wealthy and can provide a lot more for their Omegas, so they never get picked as a pack. But our Omega in the story meets them and really likes them. So then I'm going to talk about part 2 as well. So part 2, after they meet, they get together, it gets much steamier. So this first part, I gave both of these 3 stars. I had some issues with these books. For the most part, I feel like part 1 was completely unnecessary. It was just like, it felt like a big long book of filler until you get to the second book, where the second book we actually have a lot of plot going on. There's things happening, there's steam to it. So the first one, there's like very low minimal steam. There's just not a lot going on, and we're just waiting for these characters to meet and get together. So I think the first one basically just needs to be cut out. And the second one, I mean, it was still it was fine. There was just some issues I had with some of the characters. Like our heroine all throughout the first one she would say this and like think certain things and then flip it around in the second one, and I had issues with it. I just don't like that these authors split this up into 2 books. It seems very gimmicky, like they're just wanting more money out of this, to be honest. Because the first one, like, it was unnecessary. It should have been 1 book and left it at that. But yeah. Then I read Roommate Arrangement by Saxon James. This is the first book of the Divorced Men's Club series. This is a male-male romance. This is about one of our heroes. He finds out that his husband has been cheating on him, so he is going through a divorce and moves back to his hometown, is trying to figure out what to do with his life, and he's needing a place to stay, so his brother's best friend has a room and is like, hey, you can room with me. But his brother's best friend has also had a crush on him since like high school. Both of these characters are in their 30s, I believe. I gave this 3 stars. This was a cute romance. It just wasn't anything that like wowed me about it. I also did have some like, it's called the Divorced Men's Club series, and there's a little bit of like a thing where he meets some other men who are divorced and they're like kind of helping each other, but I wish there was more involved with that. Like, it was very minimal. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Steam on this was high, but yeah, it was just kind of meh. It was fine. Then I read Morning Glory Milking Farm by CM Nascosta. I don't know if that's how you say it, but we're gonna go with it. This is the first book in her Cambric Creek series. I did not think I was going to read this. I've heard a lot about this, but I've been putting it off because I was just like, bullmen creatures. That's not really my thing. I just was like, I don't know that I'm gonna like it. But I listened to this on audio, which I think helped me a lot. So this is about our heroine, and she is needing a job, so she gets a job at a milking farm. So basically this place, it kind of reminds me of like a pharmaceutical company. There's supernatural creatures like in the everyday world, and they have found that minotaurs, I think is what the creatures, their semen has different like properties that can be used in lots of different products for things. So that's what she is there to, is to get semen from these minotaurs. Surprisingly, so I did give this 3.5 stars. It was very weird, but when we get to the romance part of it, because she does start to, like, she meets a client and they start talking, and then they bump into each other like outside of the workplace, and they start a conversation. Like, the romance part of it was very sweet. I did like, so it made me see why people love this book so much, just because the romance was so sweet. I did really like that and the development between the romance, but the rest of it, like I said, it was very weird. Steam on this is going to be medium high. There's that. Then I read Sweet Berries by CM Nascosta, which is the second book of the Cambric Creek series. So I decided to pick this one up since I did enjoy the first one. I was like, okay, let's keep going with this. Listen to this on audiobook too. Very disappointed in this one. This one is about our heroine. She's an event planner, and when she goes home one day, she has somebody that's like watching her through her window as she like gets undressed, and she decides to masturbate, and he kind of helps her along, and then she finds out that it's this Mothman dude that's in town. I gave this 2 stars. I did not like this one like at all. I felt like there was basically no plot to this. I really had no idea, like, there just seemed to be no point to this one. There was no real story going on. I had no idea what was going on. There's no direction. Our heroine lacked, both characters lacked a lot of depth that I felt like we got more so from like the characters in the first book. Steam on this was medium high again. I was just very disappointed. I think there's another book in this series, and I just don't really know that I'm going to continue on based off of this one. It was just meh. Then I read Captive of the Horde King by Zoey Draven. This is a science fiction romance. This is the first book of the Horde Kings of Dakar series. In this series, these humans are like refugees, and they have gone to these different like planets. So our heroine is a human, and she lives like in a town on, I think Dakar is the like planet or like the people or whatever. But they're kind of at the whim of the Dakar and what like their supplies they get from like these refugees, but it's very minimal. So our heroine, she like is taking care of her younger brother, and all of them are starving because they don't have enough food and their crops are not growing. So her brother had read in a book that like on Earth, how about like how we burn cropland to make it more fertile to help plants grow after the burning. So he burns the field, and the Dakar see this as like sacrilegious, like it's an offense to their god. So they're coming to figure out who burned the field, and they're basically probably going to kill that person. So she says that she did it. She gives herself up so that her brother can be safe. And the king, so there's different kings, like it kind of reminds me like there's a big like main central king, and then he has like 6, I think, horde kings, and they basically just go roaming around the planet, protecting people and like their people. So that's who comes to their village, and he decides to take her as his bride. So, steam on this is going to be high. I did give this 4 stars. This one I did really enjoy. It reminded me a little bit, if you've ever read the 4 Horsemen series by Laura Thalassa, War. It reminded me a little bit of that book, just from like the like war encampments, and they're like traveling around kind of thing. It just reminded me of that, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the development of their love story between these 2 characters and how she's trying to understand their culture, and it was really good, and I do plan on continuing this series at some point. Then I read Heat for Hire by V.K. Ludwig. This is the first book of a new series from her, Alphas of Nascosta. I don't know. This is another sci-fi romance. This is like a sci-fi Omegaverse story. This is about our heroine. She is a human and she is an Omega, and she is on her way to a doctor's appointment, and she ends up getting in like a fender bender out in the galaxy and crashes into he's basically like a cop onto this planet, and she is starting to go into her heat. So he takes her to this like safe haven for Omegas, like that's on this planet, and she ends up choosing him to help her through her heat because the cop that she crashed into is an alpha. I gave this one 4 stars as well. This one was really good. There are trigger warnings because our heroine has suffered from breast cancer in the past. I believe she's in remission, but that's why she's going to a doctor's appointment, because she had to have like the tumor was cut out of her breast. So she was wanting some reconstruction surgery on her breast because it looks like there's like big chunk out of it. So like her breasts like don't look even, and she feels like she is less of a woman because of this, and she has a lot of insecurities with it. But then the same with like our hero, he was a war veteran, and something happened to him during the war to where he has like these scars and he cannot purr correctly. So like in Omegaverse stories, like alphas can purr to calm down their Omegas, and so his purr doesn't like sound right. And so he feels like he is less of an alpha and he cannot like be who he's supposed to be. So I think this is really beautiful how they kind of helped each other work through those things, and they were like perfect for each other, and it was just so cute and I loved it. The steam on this is going to be high as well. And then the last book that I read for the first half of November is going to be Devilry by Marley Valentine. This is a male romance. And this is a steamy student professor romance. Our main, like, well, there are two heroes. One of them is a student, has just started college, and it's like his first day of classes. He got up early so he could go out running, and he ends up crashing into this beautiful older man. They have an instant, immediate attraction to each other, and then he walks into his class and realizes that it's his professor. So, very taboo story. There's age gap to it. I give this 4 stars just because this was like very steamy, pretty like typical plot line, I guess, of like a student teacher romance, of them like trying to like starting off like trying not to go like act on their attraction to each other, but like they can't help themselves, and they finally give into it, and then trying to hide it from everyone. It just like gives that like angst and like forbiddenness, and I just loved it. So steam on this is gonna be high. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, so that is going to be all the books that I read in the first half of November. Leave a comment down below with some of the books that you have been reading in November. What have you been really enjoying right now? Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and hit that subscribe button if you enjoy my content. I really appreciate it. But otherwise, I will see you on the next one. Bye guys.